Hey, what's up guys? It's DarkArmedDuelist and I'm going to be doing some virtual world punk test hands. So I'm really excited to see you guys because this is actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Jin. And this deck is an amazing deck that can make some incredible boards with just how well the virtual world and punk archetypes work together. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards like getting your name description every single video, getting a signed card to the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron, along with test stands. And definitely give Jin some love down in the comments down below for suggesting such an awesome deck. So let's get straight on into this one, guys. So this deck is an amazing deck that can go into some really incredible boards, being able to establish some of the virtual world boss monsters with some amazing tech monsters that we have in the extra deck. But these decks work so well together when you put them in one deck, because basically you're able to go into some incredible plays with your Auroradon combo and going into some really surprising boss monsters out of this deck. But you guys know it's dead rule number one that you've got to pile shuffle the deck. That is very, very important so we don't brick. So let's go ahead and give the deck a quick shuffle and see what we can pull off with our first test hand. This deck is a really, really fun deck that can go into some absolutely insane plays and is just super fun to be able to play with because you have so many different combos in this deck. So let's go ahead and see what we can do for our first hand. So we're going to draw into a copy of Artifact Scythe because this deck can actually make great use of Artifact Scythe going into some really amazing plays. Quan Long, a copy of the Punk monster, a copy of Chuchi, and a copy of Driver. So this is actually a decent hand for us. This is actually a pretty good hand right off the bat. It would be better if we had an E-Telly, but with that copy of that Punk monster in our hand, we can actually pull off some really good plays. So what we're going to do is we're just going to immediately normal summon that monster to our field and use her effect to be able to search the deck for another Punk monster, which is always going to be our copy of Foxy Tune. This is the bread and butter combo of the deck, is to get your copy of your Noah Punk monster on your side of the field to be able to search your copy of Foxy Tune, and then once you get Foxy Tune in your hand, you're able to get out a copy of Madam Spider, establishing one of our first negates. We're then going to use the effect of our copy of Foxy Tune to be able to send from our hand to the graveyard the copy of Foxy Tune and another card that we really don't need, like the copy of Quan Long, which is really good to be able to send Quan Long because then you can use it for a search, which is a really, really good effect. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and summon out to our side of the field one of our other Punk monsters, which is going to be our copy of Madam Spider, which is an extremely important piece for this deck because then you're going to pay 600 life points for your Madam Spider, just like you did with your other Punk monster, to be able to search the deck for a Punk trap card, which is our first negate, which is a copy of our Dangerous Gaboo. Dangerous Gaboo is a really powerful card for this deck because it's basically an infinite impermanence, which is just such a powerful card. It negates the effect of one effect monster on the field, which is just an extremely powerful effect to be able to establish on the field. So at this point, you have basically your two monsters on your side of the field that you're going to be able to go into a copy of Needle Fiber at this point, which is really, really good for this deck. So what we're going to do now at this point is we're going to go ahead and link these two cards away for our copy of Needle Fiber. Needle Fiber is a very important piece for this deck because once you put the Needle Fiber on your field, you're going to want to special summon out to your side of the field a copy of Despot 01, which is an extremely important combo piece for this deck to be able to go into for your copy of Auroradon, because Auroradon requires machine monsters to link summon into it. So then we're going to go ahead and link these away to be able to summon out our copy of our Auroradon from the extra deck. So once we summon out that copy of Auroradon, we can actually put 3 tokens on our side of the field. Doesn't matter which side you work off of. You can work off of the left side or the right side for this combo, because this is going to be the only other link monster that we're going to summon this turn. So at this point, you can go ahead and bring back your copy of your Despot 01 to your side of the field to be able to go into some synchro plays. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and synchro away the level 3 token with a copy of our Despot 01 to be able to go in for a copy of Cupid Pitch. Cupid Pitch is an extremely important card, but just like with the Punk deck, you're going to use the effect of Cupid Pitch to be able to either increase or decrease by the level of the tuner monster, which with your copy of Despot 01 is going to decrease it down by 1 to go to a level 3 monster, which is very important to be able to decrease it instead of increase it, so we can go for a level 6 synchro in just a second. So we want to clean up the board just a little bit to get out another monster. So this is a very important part of this Auroradon combo, so keep this in mind. We're going to use the effect of Auroradon to be able to tribute itself and a copy of one of your tokens to leave an Auroradon token on your side of the field that counts as a Mecha Phantom Beast monster. Once we get these off the field, we're then going to summon to our side of the field a copy of our Colt Wing. Colt Wing is a very important card for this combo, because once you summon out that copy of Colt Wing, you're going to generate 2 more tokens onto your side of the field, which is really, really important for this combo. So we're going to go ahead and put 2 more of our tokens on our side of the field, which will come out as level 3 monsters, which is very, very important for this particular play. Now, our Colt Wing will gain levels equal to the amount of the tokens on our side of the field, but at this point, we're going to go ahead and start synchro summoning. And with Virtual World, you want to go in increments of 3, going 3, 6, 9, 12, all the way up to 12 with your combos, which is very, very important. So that's when we're working in 3s right here. So we're going to go ahead and synchro summon these 2 together to be able to go into a copy of our Virtual World Synchro Monster, Juju. This is a very important play at this point to be able to go into because of the effect of Cupid Pitch and the effect of our Juju on our side of the field. Now, our effect of our Cupid Pitch is going to be able to use its ability to inflict 600 points of damage to the opponent, because that was the level of the synchro monster that we summoned times 100. Then the effect of Cupid Pitch will go off, letting us search from our deck to our hand a Virtual World monster that has 600 defense, or any monster that has 600 defense and that is a level 8 or lower, which is very, very important for our combo, because we actually have 2 targets in the deck, which is our Virtual World Lulu and our copy of our Virtual World Lily, which we just really want to get the copy of Lulu because both of these have 600 defense. You can search your Punk monsters, but we've already kind of done the Punk combo. So we really want to get to the copy of Lulu into our hand, which is very, very important because now we have a Virtual World card on our side of the field to be able to go in for some plays, which is very, very important for this particular play. So at this point, now that we have a copy of our Juju on the field, we can go in for a little bit more plays. We're going to go ahead and use the effect of our Virtual World Lulu to be able to special summon it to our side of the field by targeting one of our Virtual World cards, which all of your Virtual World monsters share pretty much the exact same effect that are from the main deck, which is, if this card is in your hand, you can target one Virtual World card that you control and send one Virtual World card with a different type monster, spell, or trap from your deck to your graveyard, and if you do, special summon this card. Then they gain a special ability, where Lulu's ability is that it lets you add a Virtual card of the 3rd type from your deck to your hand, which is a pretty good effect to be able to just search any card that you pretty much need at this point. So we're going to go ahead and target this, which is going to be our monster. Then we're going to send from our deck to the graveyard our trap, and then be able to search a spell, which is pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and send from our deck to the graveyard our copy of our Virtual World Gate. We're going to go ahead and search the deck for a copy of Quan Long to be able to add to our hand, which is a pretty good effect, or we can even use it with the Virtual World City, which is going to be getting us our copy of Quan Long to be able to thin the deck a little bit more, which is pretty good. So let's go ahead and activate that copy of the Virtual World City to be able to grab Quan Long from the deck. So at this point, we have some more level 3s on our side of the field, which is going to help us out to be able to go for another level 6 play. So we're going to go ahead and synchro these together to be able to go in for another synchro play, which is going to be very, very important for this deck. Now, this is a very important play because you're going to want to put your copy of Coral Dragon in an extra monster zone so that when you do search your copy of Lao Lao, you're going to be able to have a little bit clearer of zones to be able to go in for more plays. So we're going to go ahead and put our copy of Coral Dragon up here instead of putting it in the lower zones, because you don't want to put it in the lower zones so you can keep 2 zones clear for when we get a search. Now you might be looking at this field and going, okay, well that's it. We don't have any more plays in our hand, but we do. We actually have in the graveyard the card that we sent to the graveyard earlier, which is not our token. We're actually sent from our deck to the graveyard a copy of Quan Long, which Quan Long has the ability that you can banish this card from the graveyard, and then add a virtual world monster from your deck to your hand, and then send a card from your hand to the graveyard. So we're going to go ahead and banish the copy of Quan Long from the graveyard to be able to search the deck for a copy of Lao Lao. That was actually pretty convenient that it was on the bottom. And once we get to that card, we have some more plays that we can actually go for, which is pretty helpful for this deck. So at this point, I'm going to want to send a virtual world monster to the graveyard, and we're going to have to send a card from our hand to the grave. So it's kind of up to you which one you want to send. I usually send one of my virtual world gates that's not already in the graveyard, because we have plenty of cards in the grave that get effects from our virtual world gate. So I'm actually going to send my copy of Chuchi to the graveyard to be able to get that copy of my Lao Lao to my hand. So at this point, we're going to move our hand down here. We're going to activate that copy of Quan Long on our side of the field so the copy of Lao Lao can actually target it. And Lao Lao is actually a Foolish Burial and lets you special summon a monster from the graveyard as his unique effect. So we're going to go ahead and target the copy of Quan Long, and we're going to special summon him out to our side of the field to be able to special summon out another virtual world from the graveyard and send a virtual world monster from our deck to the graveyard because it's a different type than the card we targeted. So I'm going to send from my deck to the graveyard Hime. Hime is really good to be able to send to the graveyard because it's going to get you more plays in the long run, which is really, really nice. So at this point, we do have pretty much a full field, but you can go for a Baron de Fleur right here. You can be able to go for a Muddy Mud Dragon, or you can go for a lot of different plays. So I'm going to start cleaning up the board just a little bit for this field. So we're going to go ahead and get these two out of the way, which is going to summon out a copy of our Ultimaya Tzolk'in, which is very important to be able to go in for. And we're going to go ahead and shuffle up the deck, which is very important to be able to shuffle up the deck because we're going to draw a card off that Coral Dragon because technically we did Synchro Summon. So we're going to go ahead and shuffle up the deck and see what we can get. So we're going to go ahead and draw, which is going to be a copy of our P.U.N.K monster, which is not too bad. We could have got a negate, which would have been a little bit better, or a copy of our other virtual cards that we haven't used, but that's totally fine. We still have plenty of plays. Now, I'm not going to set a card right away for the Tzolk'in to be able to summon out the Crystal Wing because I kind of want to clean up the board a little bit more before we actually go for that play, because you can go in for your copy of your Muddy Mud Dragon right now to be able to clean up the board just a little bit more, which we're going to move that Berserker Crush dice up here. And we're going to go ahead and use these two on our side of the field to be able to go in for that next play, which is our copy of our Muddy Mud Dragon. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and set to our side of the field a card, which is going to special summon out to our side of the field a copy of our Crystal Wing, which is a very, very good play to be able to summon to our side of the field, because now that we have the Crystal Wing, we have a walking monster negate. And then we're going to go ahead and use these two together because we've already used the Ultimaya Tzolk'in play to be able to go in for a copy of Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. Now you might be looking at this card and going, wait, how do you go for Red Eyes Dark Dragoon? It requires Dark Magician. Well, it actually requires a Dark Magician and a Dragon Effect monster, which is met by both of these requirements, which is kind of cool. This is our Dark Dragon, and this is a substitute for Dark Magician because of its special ability, and it lets us fusion summon during our turn, which is pretty good. So you might notice now that we don't have any tokens on the field, so the level of the Cult Wing has actually dropped down back to 4, and we have a copy of Lao Lao on our field. So we can actually use these two together if we want to be able to go in for a Baron de Fleur, which is a really good play, Baron de Fleur, which is a really good play at this point because we have the Artifact Scythe in hand to be able to pop during our opponent's turn to be able to get pretty much lock them out of the extra deck, which is a really amazing thing. We can actually revive a monster if we want to, or we can just leave it as is. If you want to bring back the copy of Juju, you can, with the copy of our Virtual World Gate if you want to banish this card, or just leave it alone for now and let it stay in the grave so you can go in for more plays later and have a little bit of recovery, which is what I usually do. So this is pretty much one of the most powerful boards that this deck can actually make because you have the Artifact Scythe set on your side of the field so you can go in for those really crazy plays in this deck. So pretty much at this point, you can go ahead and special summon out the copy of Scythe during the opponent's turn, which is just a really good play to go in for because once you get that copy of Scythe on your side of the field, we can just basically pop the copy of Scythe and special summon it to the field because of Baron de Fleur's ability that you can once per turn target one card on the field and destroy it, which is a really good effect to be able to pop this card. I really like that effect and it really helps out a lot. And also you have the copy of the Red Eyes Dark Dragoon that is a walking negate, which makes sure that it's going to go through, and you have the copy of Driver to be able to discard that you're really not going to need in your hand at all which is just a really, really good thing to be able to do for this deck. You also have the Quan Long that can negate stuff, which is also really nice, with the 2 set cards on your side of the field being a Dangerous Kaboo, which is an additional negate, and the copy of Scythe, which can lock your opponent down. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 negates, and you have the copy of Scythe in the hand, which is just a really, really good setup. So let's go ahead and see what we can do for the next one, because this hand is absolutely insane. I want to show you guys how powerful this deck can actually be, because you can actually, during the next turn, if you want to, bring back the copy of Yugioh, and then if you wanted to, you could summon out the copy of the P.U.N.K monster, and then summon out to your side of the field the Shinshin, which is a really, really good play as well, to be able to go for that play during the next turn. I really like that play a lot, especially if we had E-Telly. We could have actually gone that route, but we didn't have E-Telly, which is very important to see in your opening hand is either one of these or a copy of E-Telly, which is really, really good. We actually didn't draw into too many extenders in this board, which is really interesting that we still made that crazy of a board with all of these cards. And the really cool thing about this deck is you pretty much just saw everything that's in the extra deck minus about 4 cards. We used 11 cards from the extra deck, which is just absolutely insane that you can just do that in a single turn. So let's go ahead and see what we can do for the next one and see what we can pull off for this deck, because this deck is absolutely nuts and just super fun to be able to play. So we're going to go ahead and give the deck a quick shuffle. Hopefully we don't brick, because we do have a lot of our cards mixed together. We're not going to pile shuffle this one because I want to show you guys how consistent this deck actually is. If we do draw into E-Telly, it doesn't matter of what anything else we draw into, as long as we don't draw into Cult Wing, because you can't special summon Cult Wing from the hand, which is the only downside to this deck. So let's go ahead and shuffle up the deck really, really good and see what we can pull off. So we're going to go ahead and go right there, cut the deck, and see what we can do. So we're going to go ahead and draw, and we're going to draw into a copy of Quan Long, Ash Blossom, a copy of Lili, Lao Lao, and a copy of Lulu. So at this point, we don't actually have a copy of our P.U.N.K monster, so we got to go a little bit different of a route. So we're going to actually activate the copy of the Quan Long to be able to start getting our effects off. So at this point, you can basically shut down the opponent with a single card, depending on what they're playing against, with the copy of the Shinshin, which is one of the cards that we're actually going to summon pretty early on with this combo. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and special summon out to our side of the field the copy of Lulu by targeting this, and then sending a card from our deck to the graveyard, which we're going to send a trap from the deck to the grave, which I'm going to send the copy of my Virtual World Gate to the graveyard, so we have an additional card. We target this, we send that, and then we search a monster from the deck. So we're going to search out from the deck another card, which I'm actually going to search out a copy of... Actually, let's do that a little bit reversed. Let's go ahead and send the copy of Hime to the graveyard instead, to be able to search Trap to set for a copy of our Ultimaya Tzolk'in. Let's go ahead and search the deck for a copy of Chuchi to be able to set to our side of the field, which is going to help us out a lot, because we're going to go ahead and send that to the graveyard, or send this to our hand, and be able to send the Hime to the graveyard, to be able to get our plays off really, really easily. So we're going to go ahead and target this, add this, and send this to graveyard. It's kind of interesting to keep up with which one you're working with this particular deck. And plus we have a card in the graveyard to be able to use with the copy of Lao Lao now, which is going to help us out a lot in the long run of things. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and use the copy of Lili. That has the ability that this card is in your hand. You can target a virtual world card that you control and send a virtual card of a different type, monster, spell, or trap, from your deck to the graveyard. And if you do special summon this card, then you can send a virtual world card with the third type from your deck to the graveyard. So we're going to go ahead and target the copy of Quan Long, and then actually let's target the copy of our Lulu to be able to summon to our side of the field, which then we're going to Foolish Burial to the graveyard another card, which we're going to Foolish the copy of Quan Long, and we're going to also Foolish Burial to the graveyard our last card, which is going to be a trap card, which is going to be our other Virtual World Gate. So we can go in for some really interesting plays. This is the cool thing about this deck, is you really got to think about it as you go, because you want to stack the graveyard. Because I stack the graveyard, we're now with a Monster Reborn and a copy of Quan Long that I can actually use to search a card, which is going to be pretty good by sending that copy of Chuchi to the graveyard, which is really, really good. So at this point, we can go ahead and synchro these two cards together to the graveyard to summon out the copy of the Shinshin, which is a really good play. or you can even go the Auroradon combo at this point. Well, you can't go the Auroradon combo because these lock you into monsters with levels, because that's something very important about these cards that you got to keep in mind, which is something that I had to learn as I was playtesting, that these cards actually have a little bit of a restriction, that you can only use the effect of this card, you can only special summon level or rank 3 or higher monsters when this card is on the field, which is a really important card for the rest of the turn. So now at this point, now that we've done this, we're going to go ahead and synchro these two cards together for the copy of the Shinshin, and then we're going to go ahead and use the copy of Lao Lao to be able to target this, special summon this to our side of the field, and then send an additional card to the graveyard, which we're going to summon out the copy of our Lily back to our side of the field, and then we're going to Foolish Burial something from our deck to the graveyard, which is going to be really good for this deck. That's going to be a monster. It doesn't really matter which one we're going to send at this point, because we're just going to get some really good plays to be able to go in for a copy of Crystal Wing, to be able to get a negate, and to be able to go in for the copy of the Shinshin, which is going to banish stuff, which is really nice for this deck, because it has the ability that any card sent from the field to the graveyard is banished instead. So we're going to go ahead and use these two to be able to go in for our copy of our Ultimaya Tzolk'in at this point, and then set to our side of the field the copy of Chuchi to be able to special summon to our side of the field the Crystal Wing, and then you have the copy of Ash in your hand as well to negate, and you have in the graveyard that will let you revive one of your Virtual World cards, the Quan Long, or not the copy of the Quan Long, the copy of the other Gate, which is pretty good if you want a Monster Reborn of one of your cards, or you can just hold out for another play later on, which is usually what I do with a field like this, to play a little bit more reserved with this particular hand, which is just a really nice thing to be able to do with this deck, because you still establish a really good board, because you do have a walking Macrocosmos, you have a negate right here, you have a negate in the hand, and you have the copy of the Chuchi, which is now live because of these two cards that are banished, which is really good because it lets you target a face-up card on the field, shuffle two of your banished Virtual World cards with different names from each other into the deck, and then destroy that card. So you have a pop, you have a negate, and you have a Macrocosmos, and you have this in your hand as well, and this is protected for later on to go into Dragoon if you want to go that route. So I think that's pretty well going to show you guys the way that the deck plays. You can keep going if you want to with the deck a little bit more, but sometimes you just want to play a little bit safe, which is totally fine for this deck. And I'm really excited to show you guys this deck, because that first combo is absolutely nuts and super easy to pull off in the deck, especially if you open E-Telly, which I'll show you guys that really quickly about the way E-Telly just makes this deck crazy. So we're going to activate the E-Telly, we're going to summon out the copy of our P.U.N.K monster to our side of the field, pay the 600, and then we're going to search out our copy of Foxy Tune, which you can have any other card in your hand, it doesn't matter. It can be a copy of Quan Long, it can be anything that you have that you want to have. Usually I like to have a Quan Long in the hand to be able to discard to the graveyard, send a copy of Foxy Tune and anything to the graveyard to be able to summon out from the deck a copy of Madam Spider, which is just an absolutely crazy card to be able to summon. You always want to summon out that P.U.N.K monster to your side of the field. We're going to summon out the copy of our Madam Spider to our side of the field, pay the 600, and be able to search the deck for Dangerous Gaboo, shuffle up the deck really quickly, and then be able to go in for a copy of our Needle Fiber. The Needle Fiber is going to go off. We're going to summon out the Despot 01, go for this, be able to summon out the copy of our Auroradon, summon that to our side of the field, and then you put all the tokens on your field, which is really good to be able to do. Your copy of Despot 01 will actually bring itself back to the field, and then all of these are level 3 on your side of the field. Go ahead and synchro for a copy of Cupid Pitch on your side of the field, which is the big play of the deck, just to show you guys what you can do with just that one E-Telly. This is going to come down to a level 3. You can then use these two together to be able to go in for a copy of your Colt Wing, which is really good for the deck to be able to summon out that copy of Colt Wing to your side of the field, because it's just going to get you so many different plays with that one copy of Colt Wing, which is all the way up at the top. We're going to go ahead and put that on our side of the field. This is actually going to be reversed. Sometimes you just put your tokens where your extra deck stuff is, vice versa. So we're going to go ahead and put these on your side of the field. And then once you do, you can go ahead and start synchro climbing, just like we did before. We almost mixed that up again. And then we're going to summon out the copy of the Juju to our side of the field, which is very important to put on our side of the field. And the copy of Cupid Pitch goes off, which will search out from the deck a copy of our Lulu. I always search Lulu because Lulu will get me more plays, which is really important for the deck. We're going to go ahead and shuffle it up. And then you have all the plays that you could ever want with this particular field from here to be able to just go in for more plays like target. And then you get to send a copy of the Quan Long to the graveyard. And then you also get to search the deck for the third type, which is another trap, which is just really good to get that copy of the Chuchi from your deck to your hand. And then you can basically just keep going with this field. You can basically just keep synchro climbing and keep going and going until finally you get to that field that we established the first turn, which is just what's really cool about this deck. I really love that, and it really helps out a lot to be able to go in for all those different plays. And it's just a really awesome deck to be able to go for because you have all those really good plays to be able to just keep going, because at this point you can basically just set and then just keep playing, which is just really, really cool about this deck. I really love it, and it's just really amazing. We haven't even normal summoned yet, so we can normal summon right here and then get rid of these and go for the Muddy Mud Dragon, which is just super cool because then you can go for Dragoon all over again with this field to be able to just establish something like this just off of the copy of that. And if you had more cards in your hand, you could establish even more. Even with this, you have like 3 negates, which is what's really cool. And you have all these cards in the graveyard like the Quan Long that'll give you a search that lets you keep going if you want to keep going. If you want to get a copy of a level 6 to your hand to be able to just keep going with this field, instead of setting this to your side of the field, you can set the Dangerous Gaboo, keep this in your hand, and then basically use the Quan Long to be able to just keep going with this field, because now you have the Quan Long that's banished, which is going to get you the search off of the Quan Long, which is going to get you your copy of Lao Lao, which is just absolutely nuts. Like, it's amazing to me that this is all done with 1 E-Telly. That's all it's done with, is starting with that 1 E-Telly and 1 other card in hand for the Foxy Tomb. So at this point, you can just use the copy of Lao Lao, and basically just search it to your hand and then keep going later on, which is what's really cool if you want to keep going. So I think that's pretty much going to do it for this one, guys. It's a really amazing deck, and I really love it a lot because it just has so many different combos and it's so fun. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Definitely tell me what you think of this deck down in the comments down below, because it's just so fun to be able to play. It has so many different combos, and I wanted to show you just how far you could get without the extenders, because you can go into for some really crazy plays in this deck, and I wanted to show you how powerful it was just to open this 1 card. This 1 card can basically make that entire field, and then you have 4 other cards that let you extend and show you guys that field that we made to begin with, which is just really, really crazy. I really love this deck. It's super fun to be able to play with. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.